Right, welcome to the video. There is a reason we made this tea, because girl, we about to spill some. Right, so in my previous video, I spoke about how I confessed to someone that I was in love with them. And girl, that did not go well. I chose to omit a lot of information from that video, mostly because I spoke from a place of anger. And that wasn't the point of the video. That wasn't what I wanted to tell. But I still wanted to address the situation in a different video and another lesson I learned from it. The lesson being that I definitely need to come down from my high horse a bit more often and not see myself as morally superior, as I like to do all the time. Now, to clarify, originally just had a response to my confession and then radio silence for 10 days. Then the person finally messaged, and what I thought was trying to argue with me about my feelings. And I think logically looking at it, still you can see some of them. After I told the person I was in love with them, as I mentioned in my last video, I received a very quick, short and that was it for 10 days. And after 10 days he messaged and we started kind of discussing the situation, and from my perspective it felt like we were arguing, that he was arguing with me about my feelings, and I was very hurt and very pissed off and very frustrated, and like I mentioned, felt like throwing up and my knees were buckling under me. But something I failed to mention was that definitely my judgment was clouded by my emotions. Very strongly, I now believe. As much as I tried to keep my cool, I definitely didn't. I definitely lost my chill. I won't say completely. I did do my best to keep myself together and just keep it under control, but it spilled out and spiraled a little bit, and I ended up, I think, lashing out a little bit onto the person, which I can completely understand. Man, I was conquering my greatest fear and telling someone I was in love with them. I think that shit's nerve-wracking as it is, whether or not it's your greatest fear. So I can understand why I was in such an emotionally elevated state and was just a fucking wreck. So, but the point of the video isn't to discuss how much of an emotional wreck I am. It's more so to discuss this little lesson I learned from it. After recording the video, I had a therapy session where I was originally wanting to talk through my creative block. Instead, I ended up talking about him for another hour. How much money am I gonna spend in this situation? God damn it. Don't know, maybe we're gonna spend a bit more money on it, fortunately. But then again, I'm working through things, becoming a better person, so it's all worth it. It's all for the greater good, I hope. But what my therapist asked me to do after I was kind of dragging him a little bit and getting angry and pissed off again and blaming him for things, she asked me a very good question, was how can I see it from his perspective? I was like, excuse me, what? Like, why should I? He's an asshole. He isn't. I was very much still angry. But she asked me how can I come down to earth and see it from his perspective. As in, one of his friends coming out to him being like, yo, I'm in love with you, out of nowhere. And you're like, fuck. Because I can understand the situation, because I've been in that situation where a friend you're just friends with comes out to you and tells you they're in love with you and you're like, not because it's like inconvenient for you, it is, but more than anything, it's also like, we all know what it's like to be in love and it not being reciprocated. But being on the other end, where you're the object of love and the other person, like, it's just a very confusing and weird feeling, and I can imagine it wasn't exactly nice for him. So, after a month, I can really understand what he went through. Oh god, I was the one who told him I was in love with him. Oh, fuck. But coming down to earth and understanding his perspective, again, in the sense of someone telling him they were in love with him, and him not knowing how to handle it, I imagine, being shocked as well, and quite frankly, I have no idea how I would have handled that situation, even if I would have. Like, maybe I would have just procrastinated for a year, who knows, that's horrible. He at least made an effort to answer and talk. And I can only respect that. But in that moment, I was very angry because obviously, no matter how hard I tried, I still had some expectations and hopes and whatever the but obviously, I was very pissed off and angry. So, after taking time to calm down and get off my high horse and not think I'm morally superior to others, I started to really think what it was like for him, what it could have been like. And exactly, I don't know what it was like for him. I have no idea. We haven't spoken aside from that last conversation and haven't seen him in months. But I can imagine, just if I were to go through something like that, it would have been a bit fucking stressful because you're friends with this person and maybe you think they're a lovely person. I have no idea if he thinks I'm a lovely person, so. But I can imagine it was hard. I can imagine it wasn't easy to go through, and also I know he's going through his own stuff in his life right now. A fair amount, some heavy stuff as well. And then there's me coming in telling him I'm in love with him. Good job, Miranda. Casual. So, aside from me joking and laughing at myself now, which is a good sign that I've worked through it and I can actually laugh at myself and the fact that I was so emotional and not be angry at myself. Originally, when I was writing the script for the video, it was about forgiveness, forgiving him. But now that if I've taken some more time to think about it, there's nothing really to forgive for. So that kind of went out the window, but also forgiving myself. Forgiving myself for lashing out, I guess. For being so angry and overtaken by my emotions, and I processed that as well. Now I'm not angry at myself because, man, I had feelings, I had emotions, and I did the best thing I could in that situation. Was to tell him so I wouldn't have to live with a what if, but also to hold space for myself. I still struggle a lot with holding space for my emotions, especially something as big and stressful as this situation. But I'm proud to say I allowed myself to do so. It took me 6 days of panic attacks, but I did it. And from this whole situation of quote-unquote arguing with the person about my feelings, feeling hurt, being on a high horse, thinking I'm morally superior and I'm better than everyone else, I realized a lot of faults in myself, in a sense of the way I handle situations, which is not the best just yet. Because anytime I feel intimacy or fear or any sort of danger, I put my walls up really strongly and I'm very aggressive in those situations. Also, as much as I like to think I'm emotionally mature and intelligent, I think the situation proved that I have a lot of work to do. In a sense of, I could have handled the situation a lot more maturely, a lot more calmly, and a lot more objectively. And instead of suppressing my emotions and feelings, I could have just felt them fully, and then taken time to respond more mindfully. But I didn't do that. And I have no regrets because that was who I was at that point, and even a month later I'm a lot calmer about the situation and can actually talk about it. But that was one of the lessons I learned. While the story in its own is a little bit muddied because it's been a month and a lot of the details I thought were important, that I held in high esteem and high importance, have kind of faded away into the background right now, and what I've only been focusing right now is just compassion and understanding and getting to know myself more. The 3 lessons I extracted from the situation and that therapy session and just the whole kind of writing the script and observing myself a bit more was, first, manage your expectations. It's our expectations that lead to the biggest pain more often than not. Managing expectations of the world, the people around you, and yourself allows you to hold more space for reality and how things truly unfold, but also your own reactions. I'm someone who likes to think I'm gonna be cool-headed in the situation and handle it so well, and then the situation arises and I fucking don't. That definitely, crushes my balls. Even though I don't have any, but it does that, and that brings me a lot of pain, but that's my own fault for having those expectations. The second lesson was compassion and understanding towards the person and yourself. While the situation definitely hurt, once I took a moment to calm down and imagine their perspective, along with rereading the conversation, I could see that realistically there was no malicious intent behind their questions. The person made what I can imagine a heartfelt attempt to understand my side, and it would be unfair to say otherwise. And finally, the most important one is self-knowledge. How I cope with certain situations and how it affects my life is based on my own previous experiences and traumas. I acknowledge that I have an anxious avoidant personality along with trust issues and easily bring up walls around me as soon as any emotional pain is on the horizon, which is based on my previous experiences and childhood traumas. Getting to know oneself allows us to remove the weapons our ego may hold against us and limit the projections we may conjure up as a defense mechanism. And while these things can explain our behavior, they should at no point justify it. We're the only ones responsible for how we behave, including choosing to work through our traumas and not let them run rampant through our minds. And while this whole experience has definitely been painful, it was one of the most educational ones this year. It has allowed me to look deeper inside of myself than I ever have before and accept parts of me that I didn't think needed accepting. And all in all, I have no regrets, because the one definite thing that this experience has made me feel is the one thing I've always wanted to feel. Alive. And in my opinion, those are the experiences worth living and seeking out. And while I make it sound all poetic and nice, all the lessons I've learned, it has definitely been a painful experience, a very eye-opening experience, very sobering experience, and very humbling experience, because I realized I definitely am not nearly as collected as I think I am. I don't handle the things nearly as good as I wish I did or thought I did. But that's the thing. I think it's a sign of maturity, I hope, that you are able to hold space for yourself and see your little shenanigans as child's play and understand that there's always possibility and opportunity for growth, especially if you put in the work. And I know I'm putting in the work right now and learning to hold more space for those mistakes to happen so I can then learn better from them rather than feel guilty and beat myself up and just be a dick to myself. So, as I mentioned, while this experience was definitely painful, it was massively educational. And I think while it has made a lot of changes in my life, I do believe it has made those changes for the better. And man, whatever helps you grow, I guess, is good for you. Even if in the moment it doesn't feel like it. Because in hindsight, a lot of the things I thought were bad and horrible in the moment have been the best teachers of my life. I do hope to learn to recognize those moments in the moment and accept them and appreciate them as they are, rather than try to force myself through them and run away from them. If you've enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you in the next one.